I have seen Drop Dead Gorgeous. I feel like I need to set the record straight. This is a direct response to my series called Critical Sass, where I talk about new makeup releases. And what I do in this style of video is I go through my makeup collection and I pull out things that I think could do exactly the same thing that the new makeup releases are promising to do. And then I do full face of makeup. There weren't any new primers on the market, so I'm gonna prime my face and then we will start talking about complexion product. And I want to try a new technique because I just saw my friend Stephanie, who's also known as the Style Stumbler here on YouTube. She was talking about using a product I have specifically to prime her nose, which is the Sisley Blur Expert. I always have issues with like any foundation product on my nose. I don't really know what that's about, but it's just, I think it's just because mine's so porous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like just this on my nose. I don't want to do it on my full face to see if it works for me. In Critical Sass, we talked about how Dolce & Gabbana is coming out with their new Nutri Tint blueberry tint, blueberry tint with blueberry extracts. I don't know, that was how they were selling it. Typically, when I do these videos, I like to talk about things that I have in my makeup collection. This is technically still in my testing drawer, but there will be a video very, very soon where I invite it into my makeup collection from the testing drawer. It's the Lisa Eldridge Skin Enhancing Tint, or Seamless Skin Enhancing Tint. I have the shade T3. I know that Dolce & Gabbana is a bad company. I don't, and like they've done a lot of terrible things. So like I probably wouldn't have bought from Dolce & Gabbana anyway, but it got brought up in my comment section in that video. Probably won't buy anything from them in the future. Like I feel like we already have such good skin tints. I don't know that I would be like running to a new brand to try their version of a skin tint, especially with this just having released the skin tint from Lisa Eldridge, because this is, in my opinion, like, I don't know, one of the most, like, just, I don't know, it's a really quality product, and Lisa Eldridge is just, like, much more, like, respectable, I guess, than Dolce & Gabbana. Why buy it when I have this? And they come in similar packaging. In fact, I actually think the packaging is more similar to the Urban Decay Face Bond, which I have. I'll just show you. So here's the Face Bond and then the Nutri-Tint. This is definitely a foundation. We'll talk about it in the same video where I invite this into my makeup collection. But like, look at my skin. Like, this is such a perfect product. It has great longevity. I've done a full review of it. If you didn't see that, I'll link it up in the cards for you. This has great longevity. It has good coverage. It's exactly the kind of skin product that I'm very into. So it's just like, why would I bother? I briefly talked about the new Saie concealer in my lightning round in Critical Sass. So I'm just going to use my favorite concealer. This is the Surratt Dewdrop concealer. It's been my favorite concealer for some time. I haven't tried a bunch of concealers because this is my favorite concealer I've ever tried. So I'm just going to apply a little bit because this has a lot more coverage than the skin tint. So I'm just going to do a little bit under the eyes, just like the slightest bit, and just tap it in. Let's go back and just talk about the Sisley powder just as a primer for my nose. It worked. It worked really well. I'll zoom you in because like my nose normally doesn't look great whenever I put foundation on it. It's normally a problem area. And while it still doesn't look perfect, it looks much better than it usually does. So I will give it that. I didn't talk about any new contours in that video, so I'm just going to use mine, which is the Ritual Defeat Inner Glow Cream Pigment in the shade Intuition. I just put on some of this Dr. Dennis Gross Lip Plumper. I forgot to do that at the beginning of the video, which is what I normally do. But the next thing I want to talk about is definitely a direct response from something we talked about in Critical Sass. In Critical Sass, we talked about Danessa Myricks' new lowlighters, and I had some issues with the way that was being advertised. So what my problem was with it is like Danessa was kind of like trying to tell us that, and like I think in the marketing for the Natasha Denona highlighter, they were doing a similar thing where they were talking about putting it all over your face. There are so many illuminators that we have that you could put all over your face before you put down complexion or before you put down the rest of your cheek products that just already exist. Flipping the script, just trying to change it, how we market it, it was just kind of lame from all parties who were trying to do it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wand in the shade Spotlight. And I'm just going to put it all over my cheek. And we're going to put on a second highlighter, which is not my gig so much anymore, but I think it was just it's relevant to the conversation, so we will be putting on a second highlighter. I'm just going to pat it into the skin with a brush. And look, I did it with that. I could have done it with my Ritual Defeat cream highlighters. I have the Auric Glow Lust, which is like essentially all that product was designed to be, is like a face illuminator. The Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter for a Hollywood glow. Those are all things that you can do this with, and you don't need to buy it from Danessa, Myricks, and you don't need to buy it from Natasha, Denona. And also, I think another thing is they're making this product as if they're filling some kind of gap. I know that trends are kind of cyclical. I know that brand, like these kind of trends are kind of cyclical, but I still feel like we're not heading, I mean, based on what the brands are putting out, it feels like we're trying to head back into like really strong highlight. But I don't know that's where like us as consumers are going to land. Like obviously there's a market for people who love really blinding highlight. See, Teresa is dead. She absolutely loves highlighter. It's not me. Like I don't love highlighter like that, but you could do this kind of thing with like probably something you already have in your makeup kit. I would say it's definitely easier to do with like a cream than it is a powder. So if you don't have a cream or a liquid and you were looking for something like that, I would recommend that over trying to do it with a powder. I just don't know how well the powder is gonna sit. For blush, I reacted pretty strongly to Freck Cheek Slime, and it's just a liquid blush, but I hate that they call it a cheek slime. I think a lot of people don't really care for the application method of liquid blush, and brands like Charlotte Tilbury and the one I'm going to use today, Surratt, try to combat that, the difficulty of use, which I don't think it's like difficult to use liquid blush. They make sponge applicators so it feels a little bit easier to apply them. Freck is just you like pour it out, and I actually prefer that. I removed the sponges from my liquid blushes, so these have like a sponge and you like twist it up and it like comes out of the sponge. They just released a highlighter in this kind of packaging. That is coming to me. They are sending it to me in PR. So I'm excited to try it, but I probably will also rip the sponges off of those too. But we'll see. I'm going to use the shade Barba Papa from Surratt's Liquid Artistique blush line. And I'm just going to apply it to the cheeks over top of the glow. Now, the one thing I will say is that the Charlotte Tilbury glow is a little bit of a champagne, and then this is much cooler toned. It doesn't really matter because I find that the Charlotte Tilbury one kind of goes with anything, even though it is a champagne. And this blush is a nice light wash. I'm not familiar with like how the Freck one goes on, as it's not something I'm super interested in. I'll probably never know because I'm not going to look up someone's review on it either because I don't care. Freck's market is not 33-year-olds, which is totally fine. There is definitely markets for everything, and I do feel like they do market to like just younger people, which is totally fine. They are using cheek slime as a gimmick. I don't know how good of a gimmick that is if you're gonna like rely on gimmick, and I feel like Freck tries to do gimmick, but they always fail. They made those really tiny like bronzer sticks. Do you remember those? I heard not so great things about them. The cheek slime, which I think just has a gross name. I don't think it's gross in concept. And I feel like the cheek slime came out right around the time that Bite Beauty released their liquid blushes. And I feel like they got compared and it ruined both of them. As you know, Bite Makeup is no longer with us. And that was like one of the last product releases that they did before they ended up closing. It wasn't the very last one because I don't think any of us are ever going to forget the clear foundation that they tried to release. That was certainly something that they tried. Okay, I am now going to powder my face and then we will come back to put on more stuff. Next up for bronzer, I talked about the Luminous Silk bronzers that are coming out, which are these like seemingly baked gelée bronzers that Armani's going to be releasing. I don't really have anything against Armani releasing a bronzer. I don't know if they just didn't have one in their range or they were updating a formula for their range. If there's something I definitely have a surplus of, it's bronzers and eyeshadow. I just don't feel compelled to buy a new bronzer. I also move very slowly through bronzer. So it's not something that like I feel like having more is more. That's not how I feel about bronzer. I probably could have even less than I already have of bronzer and feel really good about my collection. So I just am not really bringing in new bronzers unless I find the formula particularly interesting. And I just don't think that formula is going to be super revolutionary to me. So today I'm going to be using the Surratt bronzer in Soleil Dew. And this has a lot of the same claims. I feel like that Armani one. That one Armani one is like melts into the skin. It's not like glowy. There's not like a glow aspect to this, which I don't know that I always love in a bronzer. I like getting cream bronzers, but I feel like powder bronzers, I typically like them to be matte. And especially since I have such a glow on the cheek today, I'm like, okay, using a matte bronzer over top of that. But I never feel like bronzer ever makes me feel too matte. Like if I put on a matte bronzer, like I feel like that's not glowy enough. But as you can see, because we like laid down that highlighter first, it's still gonna look like a glowy bronzer. And I think that's the whole point. I think that's also what Danessa Myricks is trying to promote, because when I read the description of the Danessa Myricks highlighter, the low lighter thing or whatever she was calling it, it definitely felt like to me she was advertising it as like a cheek primer that had glow to it. In an effort to get to know my brushes a little bit better, because I received a bunch of brushes in PR, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to use one brand at a time until I've decided how I feel about all the brushes in it. And I've been focusing on rougher. It's been a tough time, especially with the face brushes. They shed on me every single time I use them. Every single time. Now, when I first get a brush, I don't mind a little shedding at first. That doesn't bother me to kind of get the kinks out. But like every time I've done my makeup with these brushes, I have gotten just loose hairs all over my face, which is not my favorite thing. And I'm really upset about it and I hate it. And it's really annoying to me. If I haven't edited it out completely, there is a fly in my room right now and it is simply interrupting me in the middle of sentences and I'm forgetting them. And I haven't filmed in a bit, so I'm just like having a bit of a time trying to get this video out. The next thing I'm going to use, this is like my double highlighter. And so I'm going to use this, but it's not because of a highlighter, it's because of another product that this brand released that's very similar. Rare Beauty released their blush lighter things. I don't know what they're actually calling their whatever. They're the blushes that come in the same packaging as this highlighter and look just as highlightery as this highlighter. So I wouldn't do this on a regular basis. I don't want a blush product to be like that glowy. Like that's with that on top. I know it's probably not going to be that bright, but like it's not a formula I'm interested in getting to know. Another complaint I have is that these are incredibly fragile, and so are the new versions of them. The blushes are also incredibly fragile. I just think it's a miss. I think we should have learned our lesson from this product, and it seems like we just didn't bother learning any lessons from that product, which is a bit of a bummer. We're gonna work on eyeshadow next. I'm gonna prime my eyes with the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base, and I'm gonna set it with a cream shadow, and then we will get started on what I have planned for eyeshadow. Tell you what I'm gonna do with my eyes. I'm gonna emulate a look inspired by Byredo's Mineralscapes palette. So I'm not using like the exact colors or like trying to like dupe it with my collection, but there's a lot of like blues in there and I don't play with a lot of blues. So what I'm going to do is try to do like a blue look, like a bluish look using the Monochromance palette from Hindash, and then some single shadows. I will call them out if I know what they are to you, and if I don't, then just don't worry about it. They probably were depotted from a palette. Sorry, I don't know where everything that I've depotted comes from. I don't label them because I don't care. I'm sorry that I don't always operate as if I run a YouTube channel, okay? Because sometimes I feel like I'm just a consumer still. So what the plan is to really get into this blue shade down here and manipulate it with the browns up here to make something that feels wearable to me but still has some of that blue to it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Mineralscapes palette, all of them are like satins or shimmers. Like I don't think there are any matte formulas in there. So I'm definitely like cheating a little bit by using mattes. But if I were to have that palette and that were to be the case, I would definitely probably pull some mattes in to play with that palette. I got a tattoo this week. I'll show you in a second whenever I'm done blending. I'm really excited about it. I've talked about it a little bit before, but not really on my channel, but I've definitely mentioned it in places where people might have heard about it. I asked her a tattoo artist recommendation, and I'll give you her name. Her name's Alexa Miller. She's currently tattooing out of the Gaia tattoo studio that's in Lawrenceville. She's really great. She's an apprentice there, but it was script, and if you've never gotten a tattoo before, script is a hard sell to a tattoo artist. I feel like a lot of them don't like to do it. So script is a pretty hard sell just as its own thing. And what I did is I asked some friends and was recommended some places that are LGBTQ friendly. And it's not that I wouldn't work with a straight person on a tattoo. It was what I wanted, which made me uncomfortable asking a cishet man to do for me. So I was just like, I need this kind of help. I sent an email to a couple shops and just kind of like waited to hear back to see what they said. And the email I sent went kind of like this subject line: I want a tattoo. And then I went on to describe the tattoo. And I was like, hey, my name's Tom, they, them, just kind of making it clear that like big queer coming through. And I was like, I really would like some script. I know that not all of you love to do script, but if you know someone who loves doing script and wants to have a fun little project, I feel like I have the project for them. And I was like, what I would like is the word baby, for lack of a better term, under one of my tits, my my right titty, and the word girl under my left titty. And I got an email back pretty fast from Alexa, and she was like, no, this sounds like a lot of fun. So I made an appointment with her and we did it. And I haven't gotten tattooed in a while. I have this tattoo and I have this tattoo. So I've been tattooed before. It just had been a while. And it's like, I'm not really sensitive to the pain. And I know some people are. Some people definitely are. I'm not one of those people. So it's more of like an adrenaline rush thing for me. I'm going to play with some of these grains. I'm fairly certain all of these came from the Natasha Denona 28 pan green blue palette, which I don't think they make anymore. Well, I'm glad I got it. And so my tattoo only really took like an hour and it turned out great. And I'll show it to you when I'm done with my eyeshadow. But I'm like really, really, really pleased with it. And I'm on I got it on Wednesday. It's Sunday as I film this. So, you know, we're on like day 4 of healing. I took the Tega tape off already. It was starting to get itchy and I definitely broke out from it in that area, but that's okay. It's expected. Like my skin literally wasn't breathing for a couple of days. I was feeling just like done with that part of the process. My tattoo's not goopy or anything and it feels nice to have it free. And you know, maybe you don't know this, but like after I took that tape off, there was still kind of like ink that had stained that like had like escaped from the tattoo, you know, the ink, like the little bit of ink that my body rejected. And it stained my skin. So it was like I couldn't see the clean lines, but like now the lines are very clean. Well, there's still a little that needs cleaned up and it's starting to scab, which is all par for the course when it comes to this, but it's really cute. I'm gonna show you. Baby, girl, it's so cute. But yeah, you can tell I broke out. I did want to shout out Alexa. She was really cool and she really loved the idea and she was very chill and very patient with me, and I can't recommend her enough. She's an apprentice, and I know that I feel like some people feel hesitant to book with people who are still considered apprentices, but she was excellent and I would absolutely go back for her for an art piece. But she's really good at script, so if you've been looking for a script in the Pittsburgh area, can't recommend her enough. She made like 5 custom fonts for me. This was just my favorite one. It was really, really, really fun. Now I'm like, I want another tattoo because of course I do. So I'm going to put a little bit of Nacre from Shine by SD and Seeking Shifts on my inner corner. And then I'm going to put a little bit of Ice Blink all over the lid from Shine by SD and Seeking Shifts. I feel like the camera's not picking up how beautiful and sparkly it is, so come on in. Look at that. Yeah, I feel like that's giving the vibe of that Byredo palette. I'm digging it. I also talked about the Secret Garden palette that Bella Beauté Bar released. I'm going to talk about that in like playing with new makeup. I already kind of shared that I really like it, but it's just a little too big for me, and we'll talk about that more then. But I try to focus on like duping in these videos, like duping very loosely. Like I just need to get the little bit of the effect of the thing, like a little taste of what having that item might be with something that I already have in my collection. But like that I would just be straight up using the Secret Garden palette if I use that. So it's like not the same. I've done that in aftersasses before, but in this one I really wanted to dupe the vibes of the Mineralscapes palette, and I just think I did that. I'm going to line my eyes with Ash from Victoria Beckham. I am going to talk to you about this mascara because I opened a new mascara because my other mascara emptied and it's a new mascara to me, and I feel like we should talk about it, talk you through it. So I'm going to line my eyes and then we'll talk about that, even though it's unrelated to Critical Sass. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I mostly open my PR on Instagram because it's like I could save it and do like PR hauls, which I'm not sure that you would like, and I'm not sure how much that resonates with like what I'm trying to do here, because I feel like PR hauls are certainly interesting in the way that you can tell me what you're interested in hearing about, but I'm still at the point where I feel like I can talk about everything, and that's going to be the trend that I continue with until maybe I can't. And then I feel like PR hauls could be something that I do while I talk on Patreon. I feel like that would be where I might do that. Not as like a way to like keep any of it away from the public eye for free. Just like, I don't know, I feel like my patrons, if you're like bought into that, then you like know that if I'm doing a haul, you're not going to be like, Tom wants me to buy all of this with their affiliate link, because it's obviously not what I'm trying to do. Anyway, if you missed it, I received a PR package from Covergirl, which Covergirl is a brand that I receive PR from now pretty regularly. And they don't tell me what they're going to send me or that they're going to send me anything at all. It just kind of shows up. The only time they asked me if they could send something was the first time they sent something to me. And now they just, whenever they release something, I sometimes get it. So they released a bunch of eyebrow products. And so I got a box full of eyebrow products. I haven't unboxed it yet, but do you think it's all those eyeshadows? Oh. Oh, wait. What if it's brow product? Oh, my God. Jesus Christ. What? I don't know if you can tell. I just don't do eyebrows, and I shave mine off. So it was not a very fruitful package for me, but they sent me a mascara as well, so we can talk a little bit about it. This is the Lash Blast Cleantopia mascara, and it is in the shade Ultramarine Black. And I do need to look up if this is a tubing mascara, because I'm not actually sure. And the only reason I think it might be a tubing mascara is because I have not been removing them in tubes, but sometimes when I'm washing my face, I feel something that's not dissolved makeup. And whenever I've used tubing mascaras in the past, like that's happened. Like if I washed my face before, taking off the tubes. So it might be, let me Google it. I don't see anywhere that it's specifically a tubing mascara, so it must not be. But this is the shade Ultramarine Black, as I said. It's blue. It looks blue. So you can see how it looks blue. And I was really nervous, but it does say ultramarine black. So I was like, maybe it's just a blue-based black. And I think that's what it is. Because I've worn this with warm-toned looks, and it's looked fine. And also it could, if it was going to pop blue in any case, it would have been there. But it looked black. It's a strange thing. But here's the wand. It's just like a regular natural bristle hourglass wand. And here's the thing. I'm not like wowed by it, but I don't hate it. I find that like once you build it up, it starts looking pretty good. And I do feel like it curls my lashes pretty well, because I don't use a lash curler. It's not in my nature. So there it is with like one coat. So kind of like a little bit clumpy. I don't know. It's just like, it's not going to be my favorite mascara. I do tend to prefer high-end mascaras, and I have tried to become, luxury everywhere but mascara kind of person, and it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. Although if I came across one that really worked for me, I would let you know, that's for sure, but I don't think this one's it. So here's my dilemma when it comes to mascaras, and it's like I'd rather just use the ones that I like, but I do appreciate the opportunity to like try new ones whenever I have the opportunity, like when CoverGirl randomly sends me one. Like I appreciate that opportunity to try something, but it is a shame if I tried and I don't like it, because I would just rather go back to the mascara that I like more. It just feels wasteful. I don't know, maybe I wish that I would get minis if they made them. Like I would prefer to get a mini, and then that way I've only wasted a mini if I went through all of that. I did talk about the YSL candy something in my video. So I thought, I could do the candy glaze, but the 2 shades of candy glaze I still have I don't think we'll go with this look, so I'm just gonna not do that. I did let the fly out of the window because I couldn't kill it, but I could get it out the window, and so I did that. Is it stuck between my screen and the window? Yeah. Didn't mean to torture it like that, but unfortunately you were really irking me. I really hate the way I hate the way this highlight looks. I haven't had like long nails doing makeup in a minute. Have I dug my nail into nearly everything I've put on today? Uh-huh. I sure have. I haven't used this lipstick in a while, so let's just use this. This is the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude in 33 NP Noah. Okay, here's the final look. And I did it without buying anything new. Isn't that lovely? So, yeah, I feel like the hunger has been fed, except for with the Mineralscapes palette. I just think I want it. Like, I want it. It's so strange. And it's like, it's been, not that it's been out for like the longest time, but like I still am consistently thinking about it, which is a pretty big deal for me and like how my brain works when it comes to makeup. I don't know. I'm really trying not to break my eyeshadow no buy, but I'm also kind of living in this similar space where I'm like, it doesn't matter. That's how I guess that's also how I feel. You know, when it comes to like what I do on my channel, like, you know, it's, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anyway, undecided if I'm gonna break my no buy on it. I'm trying really hard to stay strong. Anyway, that wraps up the video. My name is Tom. If you are new here, thank you so much for watching. I would love to have you subscribe. If you haven't caught the vibe, what I like to try to do here is to help myself and help you build the habit of being more discerning about the makeup that we're buying. Not saying that we should never buy makeup or that we can't treat ourselves every now and then, but just like referring back to our collection to make sure that what we have can't do what that thing can do. And oftentimes the thing we already have will probably still like more after we get the new thing. So I try to keep all of that in mind as I navigate this space. However, I do buy makeup to review and I do make money doing this, so my relationship with makeup is going to be different with anyone who's just strictly a consumer. So I always try to keep that balance and be very honest about that as I navigate this space. So if that sounds good to you, I'd love to have you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. I have channel memberships and Patreon if you are interested in that sort of thing. There's no pressure to join my Patreon. There's no pressure to be a member. I'm so happy that you're here liking, commenting, and sharing my content. That's the best way to support me or any other content creator. That's just Patreon memberships are just an additional way to support me, just not a better way. But thank you to all my current patrons and members. I really appreciate you, especially right now. And that is it. Remember to follow your haute, and you'll find me. Go forth. Ta-ta. I do want to acknowledge that it's not a Schmeck's toy, okay? That's not what that is. It's ceramic. Let me grab it. I'll show you. It's ceramic. Okay, now that I've addressed it, bye.